Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our bi-weekly call for the Digital Services Forum. Today, I have a bunch of random topics. I'm going to go through kind of a streaming of thoughts, if you will, on what I've seen on product management lately, and try to get the group's temperature on a lot of these things so we can see where to double click on more in upcoming meetings. At the end, I also want to bring up another topic on foundational data so that we can talk more about foundational data, which is really relevant to the digital product conversation as well. So before we dive in, if there are any people that are on for the first time today, just go ahead and put your name and where you're from in the comments so that we can welcome you to the group. And just so everybody knows, we use that comment section a lot. So if you have anything coming up today, especially as I go through different material that's kind of top of mind that we're working on right now, if you have any comments on it, we go back and check that so that we make sure that we're getting the group what they need in order to move forward in certain areas. So go ahead and put your name in there, and what I'll do is I'll give you a link. We'll give you a link to the forum resources so that you can get all the information that becomes available to you as a member. And some of those will be the presentations you'll see, access to an instance, as well as information on past meetings. So I'll flash that up at the end so we have more. So today's topic, I want to go through the trends we've seen, what people are doing around moving from traditional project management and more into product management. We want to talk about the role a little bit and how we see that shaping in certain areas. And then we'll look at some trending items that have been conversations around the same project to product again. And those trends, a lot around portfolios that we'll talk about there. And then, like I said, at the end, we'll bring up, and I've heard this foundation data from a couple people now. So if we have more comments on that, we can shape a meeting for one of our upcoming sessions and specifically talk about foundational data. Just struggling a little bit with how to put that together and what specific things in foundational data that people are struggling with. So I'll start this out with a digital product description. And a lot of people get hung up on this. So this is one that we want to bring up. So when you're packaging a product, right, it could be a service, a physical item, or a digital item like an application or a series of applications, and we'll speak to that use case today. And you have a specific consumer for this product, right? So it's especially in a digital form, and that means that that product has software for at least part of it, right? And software is required. That's the digital in front of the product. Okay, and then there's a life cycle involved in this as a product. And you can see that when we talk about project or product, the life cycle is a big part of that, right? That the product has a life cycle. A project has a definitive beginning and an end, but it doesn't really take that life cycle into perspective. So that's one of the big differences. And then there's a formal offer, and it says of the outcome to be provided in exchange for an explicit price. And then there's a little note down here, and I think this is Dan Warfield has been working on this definition a little more to refine it. And don't get hung up on the price, right? There's the price is different than cost. So it could be zero, right? A lot of times if we're talking about digital products, some of them that we'll talk about today, there's not always a price on it. We're not always charging for it. So that's in there for a reason, but it doesn't explicitly need to say, hey, if we're not charging for it, it's not a product. Okay, so that definition is one that we're using in here. I know different people have different definitions of digital products depending on where you're looking, but this is one that we follow mostly at ServiceNow. So there's a couple papers, and I'm going to give you links to those papers on digital products and why people are shifting. There's a couple really good books on the shift from project to products. There's a paper in the open group, and that'll be in the comment section of this. And what I did here is I asked ChatGPT, because a lot of people today are going to this method to figure out what's going on in general. So get really a non-biased look, something that pulls together a lot of sources. So the big thing on products is the agility, right? And that's a lot of times when you think about moving to products instead of projects, you're thinking more of agile. And it doesn't have to be an agile development method, but usually those two go hand in hand when you move over to a project. So you're continually looking at how can I improve this product that we have. And that's a lot of people are shifting to that because it does get them into this agile mode. Another thing I've been seeing is that it makes sure that all the technology that gets purchased gets incorporated into something. So it gets incorporated into a product that we're delivering. It's big on the customer focus, so really experience and measuring the customers and how they're consuming that product, whether it's internal and or external. The strategic is a big part, the strategic alignment. And this is, we'll get into this a little bit more later, where we talk about portfolios of projects, of products rather. So how are we lining those products up into buckets so that we can align them to help with the strategic goals and initiatives? There's a lot of good collaboration and innovation. That's another big part of it. So when you're working on products, it really promotes that cross-functional teamwork. You're bringing people in and out to help you develop and release and advertise. So you're really making a concerted effort to get the product out there and to work with people to make sure that it gets the most use in your organization. And then growth and risk mitigation, and you'll see this in all the papers, whether it's the open group paper on the move from project to product, or the books. There's a lot of these concepts will come in through those different areas. And I'm going to show you a couple of the examples that we've been seeing and how these are starting to shape in certain areas and coming in little pockets. Okay, so this is a map that we've presented in the past that kind of lays out everything ServiceNow does on one page. And it's really nice to use because we can see the groupings. There's a big customer focus part. There's our technology parts at ServiceNow, employees. So we have all the different pieces. Just gonna move. We have all the different pieces on here. And what we've been having a lot of conversations about is how do we start doing product management on the ServiceNow platform? So I thought this might, for people still not getting the product concept, I was thinking that this might help a little bit, because it's not just product management where somebody's managing IT service management. It may be, but it's also something, it could be something very different. So in this organization, what we talked about is moving to more of a product management philosophy using the ServiceNow. So one of the things we did is we said, if we take certain areas, we take all of these things, the engagement layer, and then all the core pieces of the ServiceNow platform, and let's assign a product manager to that. And so what that product manager does is, if you think about the consumers of the platform, these are tenants on the platform. So IT service management consumes the ServiceNow platform. And so if that's one product manager, another product manager might be the IT service management team that's now saying, I'm using the ServiceNow platform to deliver my IT service management product. Right? You might have another group here where we say the IT asset management team is also the one that's bringing in the ITOM pieces to collect the information on the assets. So that's another thing that you can kind of wrap together if it works for your organization and bundle that together as a product. Okay, application portfolio management, maybe that one's managed independently. And we talked with this customer that I masked out here, we actually talked about this explicitly. Do we need a product manager for that? Or do we kind of roll that all together on one big IT shared service product, right? So those are the conversations that we're having. SPM is its own product. But now this is a customer that was in the public sector. So what they did is they had the public sector part of ServiceNow, but they also have customer service management that's bundled with that. So that is managed, it's its own bucket for the customer service part. And then the App Engine piece is separate. And then we have field service management that's separate. So what we talk about now is how do we put people in charge of all these sections? Because a lot of times what happens is the ServiceNow platform owner becomes the de facto, product owner for all these things. And the field service team might say, hey, we put that on ServiceNow, so all we have to do is use it now. We don't have to take care of it. We don't have to, ask for new features. Like the ServiceNow, this person that runs the platform now just took over all the responsibilities for those things. So what we do is by talking about this in a different way, we go ahead and we can say, let's make sure that we have all of these products represented so that now we could have sort of a matrixed organization that is delivering these things for the organization. And so all of these products could be represented by these different people that come in, and that role is basically to make sure that you have certain responsibilities as the owner of the constituent services product. Right? So the ServiceNow platform product manager, right? They're not serving end users. They're not serving the people that are using your service desk. They're not serving the people that are doing application management. They're actually serving the product managers, right? The tenants that are the product managers that are using their platform. So that person is getting the service that they're providing is being consumed by these other 8 product managers. Okay, so that's a big shift for a lot of people, because a lot of times that platform owner in ServiceNow, they have to worry about all the end users of all these products. Now, if you look at one of these product managers, their responsibility, if you click on this, right, is to make sure that you own and manage all the products that you're responsible for. So it's either a product or the portfolio, and you maintain the life cycle. So for as long as we have the field service product that we're using, you make sure that you're refreshing that. You make sure the roadmap's fresh. You make sure that people know new features are coming. You look for new people in your organization to use that field service product. As a product manager, you're responsible for the proliferation of it. You're responsible for the future of it. And you're responsible for telling that platform on ServiceNow what you need, the pieces that you need. So this spreading out of the responsibilities is a big trend on the ServiceNow platform as we look to move forward with expanding it more from a ticketing tool to an enterprise platform. Right? This is the type of thing that we need. Just like an ERP, you wouldn't say that the person that owns the SAP platform is also responsible for HR and supply chain and finance. Right? It's the same way on the ServiceNow platform. There's that platform owner, and then all those people that ride on the platform to use its capabilities. All right, so that's one example we've been talking a lot about.
John, you've got a question in the chat from Alan. It says, we have a group that has organized their work in groups into user experiences, and they're saying that the user experiences are their products. Is that legitimate? Is it good or problematic?
Yeah, I think that's great. The focus on the user experience is a big part of it, and definitely moving in the right direction, because a lot of times, like I said, that like on ServiceNow, that all lands down here on the platform owner. So if there's a user experience that is not being delivered because the platform is lacking, right, they need to push it back that way. So I don't know if that's the case there, Alan, in your organization, if that's how it's working, to where there's this relationship between these two people for the user experience, because that platform owner is the one that's responsible for the channels, right?
What I'm asking about is more about the granularity. In the this is Kaiser Permanente healthcare, and so it was they organized it in terms of manage my appointments, manage my prescriptions, manage my health record, and each of those was called a user experience, and that's how they organize the squads and the services that get developed. But there wasn't a focus on a particular product or software product within each one there, and so that's why I was wondering, is that okay for them to say, oh, our user experiences are our products? I was afraid that was a little bit the medium is the message, kind of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, it could be, and if it's, I mean, that's part of it is the experience, but another big part of it, right, is the strategy, the roadmap, where are you going with it? So as long as that group is focused on the ongoing improvement of the experience, which is a big part of the product, that's definitely a big chunk of it.
Also, I'd add to that list like the investment, and there's a pragmatic middle somewhere where any particular scheme, if you take it to its extreme, you're going to have too many independent products and too many product managers, and it's going to be unwieldy, and they're not going to have enough real force and power. It's like swinging the pendulum one way. You swing it the other way, and you've got too few product managers, and they're over too big a territory, and they're not really involved in the vision and improving of their product the way they should be. There's a right somewhere in the middle, and I think every org kind of finds that right spot after a lot of fumbling around. I think we're immature at this as an industry. So like it's do what works, and the user part is definitely a huge part of products, but there's also a whole bunch of products that I think are totally valid products that don't have direct end user facing, that they're more how would you say, friction eliminators, that sort of thing. On the platform, like is like a portal a product versus a specific instance of a portal that's being used for a specific purpose? I'd argue like the generic capability of doing portals isn't. That's just a platform capability. Specific groupings of things, like I've had a supply chain management portal with a supply chain management workflow and some document management and stuff like that. I'd say all those parts together equal one product for organizations that I've worked with. Your mileage is going to vary.
Right.
And we've debated here too, like, do you take these and roll that up into one, like, you know, IT, is this like one big IT shared service product, right? Whatever you're naming it, right? And how the level you want to track it at, you can kind of adjust this granularity. So even certain times we brought the CMDB up into the top level, like somebody is in charge of maintaining CMDB data and getting more consumers of that data, which is kind of strange because usually the CMD is a supporting function. But if you actually make it to where there's a product manager and they're saying, we're going to make sure that security is using it and IT service management's using it, and right, then it becomes more, you can elevate it by making it a product.
Well, and one of the key things for that, and I'm a big fan of that, by the way, is the service offerings. And so just because we're product focused doesn't mean services aren't still a huge part of this. And if you're looking at who's the service provider and who's the service consumers and what are those defined service offerings, CMDB fits that very clearly. And there's a lot of advantages of understanding that incident management and security and asset management and all the rest of those things are all service consumers of the CMDB service and the product that delivers that. So I love that model personally, even though it is more of a back end thing.
Yeah, that's another area we're struggling to get our feet on the ground of the distinction and responsibilities between product and service. The best thing that I found so far was the statement from Dan Warfield of, and he may have gotten it from someplace else, of customers receive value from a product delivered by a service, which seems to work and map very well, but we need more guidance in terms of what's a product manager versus a service manager. Where do they do similar things, connected things, different things? What are the comparative responsibilities? I didn't mean, John, I didn't mean to take you off of your spiel. Charles, thanks for taking the question, but if you want to continue your flow, go for it, and then we can address questions later.
Sure. Yeah, this is another one I'll put up there, but really good dialogue, Alan. You didn't take me off it at all. This is what I was hoping we'd get today. So this is a lot of what we're with the digital products. Mark had some early views of 5.0 of the CSDM, and you can see the products coming in and starting to group different things together. Right, so a product might be, hey, this is the service that we're delivering on the side, right? But this is the applications that we're using for out of the enterprise. These are the applications we're using. These are the products that we're using on the technical product side, right? Or the technical service side, the group of things that we're using. So you could package products together, whether it's an application that's being delivered or a technical service offering, right? You could package those together using that product construct. Right? So you're building a larger product like an automobile, right? And then it has all of like your seat controls and your temperature controls, those are all different software pieces together. So those independent products are coming together to create the offering of the automobile, right? And it's the same way here in your organization, that you're using the Linux team to give you a Linux server, and you're using the MySQL team to give you a MySQL server, and then you have this product that you bought or built, right? So that's the packaging we're looking to get together to give that product manager so that they can go ahead and deliver their offering. So I'll give you an example of this that I just had I work with state customers a lot, and they wanted to package a constituent, basically a constituent service where other agencies can come in. Like, let's say public safety comes in and says, I want to be able to offer a way to pay a citation online, because the only way they do it today is they mail it in or do something like that. So they want to get it off of the method it's on and digitize it. So this product manager might be thinking, like, how can I make a package that I offer to all of my agencies so that they do things like pay citation or apply for a building permit, so that they can come in and get that package that's more ready for them, instead of them coming to IT and you saying, here's an IP address and here's your 3 VMs, and they want to come to IT and just say, I need a new constituent service. So they might say, okay, as the product manager, I need these 3 things out of ServiceNow's package. But to your point before, for the user experience, I also need things that aren't ServiceNow, right? I need to use Esri. This is a big GIS software. I need a payment gateway that ServiceNow doesn't do. I need a digital signature. So what they can do is they could say, our package is this part from ServiceNow and this part from other vendors, or these parts rather, and they make these together, and this is the state's product, right? The state's product that they can give to agencies is this combination of these vendor provided software packages. But they offer unique value as that state IT agency because they pre-package these things for them, right? So that we don't have to go through that whole design every time. And then that model's reusable for things like, citations or permits or marriage licenses, right? Or hunting licenses or DMV payments. And so what they could do is that product manager now is responsible for making sure a lot of people use this package. And then say, what do I need to add on next? Do I need to add on DocuSign next, or do I need to add on another one of these things that ServiceNow has in the package that I'm using? So that product manager decides when things come in. And this is really where they have an advantage over a vendor like us, right? Like ServiceNow comes in and says, we have all these things. Well, I need to still put that together and make it work for my state. So basically what they have here is they're able to develop their own package. And who cares what technology it's underneath, right? In this case, I'm giving you the ServiceNow example because you're all ServiceNow people, right? But they can offer this in their own portal with that pre-packaged thing, and they can get them to value much quicker than, like I said, having that conversation about IP addresses and SQL servers and things like that. Like a lot of times, the IT conversation is. So what I want to do is I want to launch a little poll here on digital products, and go ahead and get that filled out by you guys while we go through the next couple pieces. Okay, so that's another part of the trend where we're seeing specific digital products come up and different packaging come up. That's a lot of the way we're talking about it now. And we assign a person to making sure as many of these get used as possible. And what do I need to do? What features do I need to make more people use this internal product, right? Right, so some of the trends we've been seeing is we're starting to look at how people make the move. And what we mean by that is there's different ways that we see people starting out with products. A lot of what I see, because people start doing this on ServiceNow, a lot of what I see is we want to pilot. We want to go in that direction, that we're going to say, hey, can we get one running like this, and then maybe move to more of these product groups, right? These product constructs where people are all responsible for it. This one's pretty common. Like, if we see this a lot of skunkworks projects, this bootstrapping is when they see the limitations of the organization as being a hindrance, right, to meeting the market demands. So what they do is they spin out this group, they push this group aside, and they say, you can work in the confines of your own product group. So we're going to give you complete autonomy in that product group to develop something quicker, so that you can make sure that you're more able to meet this big challenge that we have in the market. So that one is, like, a lot of times you'll hear like skunkworks and things like that. So they just push those people to the side. And piloting is when you have it in mind that you want to see, do digital products really work for us? Let's do one, let's do two, let's do a couple. So let's put a couple people in that mode of working while everybody else stays in the traditional way of working. And that piloting is usually going to be, if successful pilot, a lot of times you'll move to this, where a couple of the organizations I know on the phone today that are represented, the enterprise has made a decision and said, look, we're going to move to product management. We're doing this software for a long time, and this is the way all the other, like ServiceNow, right? We package everything into products. So all these big companies, they use that product construct, and we're going to do that now. So Charles talked about Boeing a few weeks ago. So these big shifts, I just want to get a temperature on other people too. So we're going to take another survey here. And I'll post these survey results inside of inside of the PowerPoint when I put the PowerPoint out on our share. But this will be, looks like we have mostly people doing product management in some places. It seems like that the big goal now. Okay, so thinking about these scenarios on the next one, we want to take a quick look at how people are seeing this shift happening, the ones that are either have done the shift or the people that are have done the shift or are in the process of shifting to digital products. Okay, so it looks like some people, yeah, so it says a lot of people aren't doing it in this group right now, so that's good to know. A couple pilots going on. No bootstrapping, so nobody really broke out a group. There's a little bit of bootstrapping in there. Excellent. All right, so we can look at how people are getting there, and a lot of this will be a focus of some of the research that we're doing, and then the enablement, right, for each of these different scenarios.
Comentarles que en la entrada avisen que van a.
All right. Now, as we go, so that's one of the things in trending, right, is that people are using all three of these ways to get there. Anything in the comments that you put, if there's a different way, this is one of the papers that we're writing right now with Dan and Mark, where we're looking at some of the different perspectives and ways people are getting to digital products. So another thing that Mark's been doing a lot of work on, and I know he presented this, but this is a work in progress, is we're looking at how different digital products in different groups have different attributes. Right, so one of a group of digital products is ones that are being used by our customers. There's others. This is the tool chain that we use to actually build new digital products or configure them. Because a lot of people say, oh, we don't do development. We use off-the-shelf products as much as possible. Well, if you bring that off-the-shelf product in, you still have to configure it for your organization. So this is more of that tool chain, whether you're writing a bunch of code to deliver digital products or you're manufacturing, making a physical product. So that's another type of digital products with a specific set of attributes. The employee products, things like onboarding and facilities and all those different things would fall into those products that employees consume. That would be more of an internal provided thing. And then there's a lot of the things that we talked about in ServiceNow are foundational products. So what are our shared technical services that we put out there so that everybody doesn't have to be a Windows administrator to run their environments, right? We kind of standardize some of those technical pieces so people don't have to wonder about that underlying piece. So if there's any comments on this, this is a lot of what's shaking out is how do we start to form and give a type to different product portfolios so that we can group them together and treat them a little bit differently because they're being consumed by these different groups of consumers.
Hey,
So
John, it's Alan again. Where do the digital product portfolios appear in CSDM? Are they up in design?
In CSDM, they're on the business service side is where you'll see some of the portfolios. But if I'm going to show you something a little bit different there, Alan, have you seen DPM in recent releases? We have an enterprise portfolio piece in there.
Haven't seen that.
Okay, so I'm going to show you that in a minute here because I want to give you an idea of a couple different constructs on how to group these, and we're going to look at a use case from UCI. They gave me the permission to use theirs.
So one quick part. about products and CSDM. There's a bunch of questions in the chat on it, and I'll try and kind of summarize at least my take on the answer. CSDM 4 came out while digital product management was in early phases and evolving. So there isn't a clean match in CSDM 4. There's sort of stubs, that there's concepts that are bleeding their way in. You still have business services, app services, technical services. Those are kind of your foundational elements in CSDM. That's not really changing. Product, I suspect, will fit somewhere in between those services and the portfolios, which is where I think, what John's showing on the screen there, it's not meant to replace those earlier concepts. It's almost more to bundle them. So this isn't a one way's right or wrong. It's multiple thought streams are going on at the same time, and they're evolving, and they don't always line up cleanly. And you do what's pragmatic to manage your business.
I'll show you kind of what's there now in DPM that's been shaken out quite a bit. So we'll look at this this UCI use case at the end. I'm going to jump over to a demo for that to show you some new things. So one of the things that people are structuring portfolios, this is another, is evaluate. So how do we put all of these products, like I showed you all those ServiceNow products, there was 9 of them. Like, how do we put all those on an equal playing field and make a decision on who's going to get funding, or where are we going to divest in, right? Because that product isn't as doing as well, right? They told me they'd have 400 people using that in our organization, and we only got 20 people using it. We're 6 months in. And so there's these evaluations. That's a good reason to group products together into these packages, these portfolios. There's risk is a big part of that too, right? We want to make sure we're investing to mitigate the risks. Technology rationalization, a lot of people start there, is what are all those technical parts? What are they part of delivering? So they're kind of mapping it to the products they're offering. And I want to talk to you about this use case too, because we don't have ways to group like digital products yet in ServiceNow. We have ways to group applications. We have ways to group application services. And then we have ways to group digital or business services rather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we changed a little bit in DPM. And I'm going to use this UCI use case. If anybody's heard of the time model before, what that is a way of grouping a bunch of applications together and then doing assessments on them. So what UCI's use case is, they want to take these buckets of applications they own, and they want to do a qualitative assessment on all of those applications, right? And later they're going to do a quantitative assessment. Like, what do we know about those applications? But first, what they want to do is a qualitative assessment. So they're using this time scoring, which is from Gartner. They're using a time scoring method. And for each application, they're saying, what is the business fitness, the cost fitness, and the technology fitness? So these surveys will go out to each of the application owners. And then based on the surveys, they'll derive a score. And then over time, they want to make sure they're trending the scores on all of these. And then they want to provide reporting on it so that they can manage to those applications. But what they also want to do is they want to be able to roll up the applications and have a score on the business service or services that those applications provide. Okay, so this is where I'm going to jump over, and we'll take a look at DPM and something new in DPM that people might not know about today. But you can see the kind of direction we're going to support these different scenarios, because what they're doing is they're kind of doing product management here, because they are grouping it into a business service. And I'll show you how that works inside of the product. Okay, so For those of you on the call for the first time, I'll give you access to this instance. So if you want to come into this instance as an admin, you can just send me a note. And I know a lot of you have logins already. So what I'm going to show you here, you'll be able to go ahead and go where I'm going. You can follow me along in the video afterwards. But if you go into workspaces, right, there's digital portfolio management. And in digital portfolio management, in the past, what you had the ability to do is that you had the ability to create a portfolio in the business service domain, right? So that is going to be any of the portfolios. Like if you click on ours, you will be able to see that there's these service portfolios. So if I go to enterprise technology, right, it'll bring us into a group of business services. And what we did in recent releases is we offered different types of portfolios. So now what you can do is you can group business applications. That's in that top right domain. You can group those, and you can also group application services and create portfolios of those. So there's still not a product portfolio, right? But there are these different groups of portfolios that we have. So if I look at an application portfolio, getting back to UCI's use case, this application portfolio is what we think will fit the bill the best. So the way that these application portfolios work is that you have a taxonomy, like human resources, and you can say, multi-level taxonomy here. So these are taxonomy nodes. And then Temp Tracker and Workday, these are actually the business applications. Okay, now what we do, because of the CSDM, underneath Workday, we're going to give you the application services. And so what you do, when you create your taxonomy structure, what you do is you tell us what is the taxonomy and then what applications go in it. And then by means of CSDM, we're going to give you these application services underneath that are running Workday.
Hey, John,
Now yes.
is this pulling from APM? Because that's where we're defining it.
Yeah, this is pulling from APM, the business application Workday.
Right.
But it's pulling from the structure that you created in DPM for the taxonomy.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so what it does for Workday now, right, is it's giving me quantitative measures. So it's giving me my availability, the number of incidents that I have, not on my business application, because you don't want to put incidents on a business application, but it's using CSDM to roll up our incidents from our underlying application services. Now with UCI, what we're doing is we're going and we don't want these metrics right now. We don't want incidents. We don't want changes. We want to put 3 new metrics in there from Gartner. So what we can do is we can have 3 new metrics that we create that roll up the scores from those surveys, similar to like we would do in a satisfaction survey. And we can say for Workday, here is our cost fitness, here's our business fitness, and here's our technical fitness, right? So we're creating these lines because this portfolio structure gives us that, the reporting that we need to see the trends of those fitness scores. And then what it does, because it's in the portfolio, it will roll those fitness scores up to the human resource information system level. So now we'll have the aggregate scores of those surveys that we did down here at this level. Okay, so it's a way we're grouping applications, but we're getting the roll-ups on those functional groups. So human resource information systems, that might be like a portfolio manager, right, for all the products that HR uses. So we're using this as a proxy for product reporting, right? But it's using it based on the applications groupings. So that's a little bit of information on how we can roll it up to that level. Now, what they're doing at UCI is these groupings are actually a proxy for their business services. So we could actually do another survey at this level if we want to do a fitness and then roll that up to higher level categories. So we're talking about where do we do the surveys? How do we bring that information in? And then how do we make sure that the people that are responsible for the applications all the way up to this level could come up and see the results of that quantitative analysis of all of the underlying applications, so that they know where to invest and not invest. So that will be one of the metrics for determining the investment strategy going forward. Okay, so for those of you that haven't seen it before, if you do go to DPM, you will get those 3 different types of portfolios now. So I'll just give you a quick look at this and switch back. And I think we're gonna have a whole session on this coming up. But if you go to enterprise portfolios, you'll see here that it's going to let you, it'll let you create either an application, enterprise business application portfolio or application service portfolio. So I have 2 examples in this environment for those of you who want to come in and check them out. And then when you get a new one, it'll ask you, how do you want to group the technology together? Right. So if I say new, you'll be able to say, what type of things are we grouping application services? Are we grouping business applications? So they give you different roll-ups depending on what you're grouping together. Okay, there's other things we've done. Maybe next time we can cover, like, how do you add new metrics on your portfolios of business applications or application services? But that gives you some idea of how we can apply the needs for reporting or on, to do portfolio evaluations, how we could apply that today using what we have. Okay, so it looks like a large part of our group hasn't really started on digital products yet. And we have about 20%, 20% have started the enterprise shift, which is really nice, to digital service or digital products rather.
Then I have a question.
Yeah.
So with digital product portfolio management, it is dependent on the service portfolio management, correct?
It's on the service, not necessarily. You could come in and group business applications standalone. It's just that you wouldn't get the application services underneath unless you had some of the services defined. So, but you could just have the business app table filled out and use that construct. You just wouldn't get that drill down I showed you.
Gotcha. I think one of the confusions some of my clients have had is understanding DPM and then I guess the legacy or the existing SPM, service portfolio management, not strategic portfolio management, because you could kind of create your taxonomies and get a lot of these metrics like availability, major incidents, and all that at the service portfolio management level as well. So it's just trying to understand, at least from what I understood, is SPM and DPM were somewhat related, but DPM is kind of giving you this visual because SPM does not have that visual.
Yeah, we got rid
Unless
of
I'm off base on that.
SPM got collapsed into DPM.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep. So this is the SPM taxonomy that we're using. And that's where the portfolios are in that question was asked earlier. This is how you would group those business services or technical services together. So it's different groupings for different domains in the CSDM. And
it was just confusing for clients because they're like, we see service portfolio management and we see digital portfolio management. Like, which one should we, I guess, configure? And obviously I told them to do a DPM because it's the
Yeah.
path forward. Thank you for clarifying. Appreciate that.
Wait.
Oh, I
John,
would-
this is Mitch. We're still using Service Builder to create services and service offerings, but DPM to manage those services.
Right.
So will eventually that functionality be rolled into DPM?
Well, yeah, it is today. Like if you go to this
So
business
why is there
service,
still Service Builder and that functionality?
because this service builder is built into these. So if you're on a business service and you own it, you can edit this in Service Builder. So
Oh.
Service Builder is the configuration and DPM is the visualization.
Okay, so Service Builder sits on top of DPM. It's not necessarily. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair. Thanks.
Well, and also just because we're releasing new apps that take a different lens on similar data, don't, like, if you're not doing digital product management and that's working for you, then don't go this direction. Like, I think there's a lot of pressure sometimes to kind of keep up on everything, and the industry's definitely heading towards product management, but use the tools that are appropriate for managing how your org manages portfolios and how they do that. If you're still doing apps and services, great, that's working for you.
Well, I'm going to launch the last poll here because we just want to see where we need to go in terms of getting more DPM information out. I'm talking to a lot of people who haven't seen DPM or didn't know about enterprise portfolios. I just want to validate that with the group if that's the case.
John, this is Venkata, by the way. So it's a good session to understand the DPM, but we have a client who is undergoing the reorg, and they're centralizing most of their services, and they are also consolidating their vendors, right? So in scenarios like this, especially that's the nature of the client or the current work, what's happening. They don't have an enterprise architecture team clearly defined, and the services are really fragmented. Like you have multiple teams doing the same thing. What is the level of mindset change? So I don't even know that they are okay to deal with the concept of digital product management, right? Like as you said. So what is the best way to formulate a use case here, and how can we just show the value of this? And who would be the actual stakeholders who can understand this and then put this into implementation, right? From your experience.
Yeah, so what I've seen is the enterprise architects are really taking the lead on this, right? To try to get something in place. That's why I brought this UCI example is a really good one, because they're trying to get there, right? They're trying to say, how do we report on these groups of technologies, and creating those constructs, like determining, how much money people get for certain things based on its fitness, right? Do we need to elevate? So people, like, this is a good example of, they're not actually explicitly saying we're doing digital product management, but they're moving in that direction, right? Just like the user experience that Alan mentioned earlier, because you're focused on that user experience and you're doing different things and different planning to elevate the experience, you're starting to move in that direction of digital product management. So you don't explicitly have to come out and say we're shifting, we're changing today, right? But these little pockets of things, as long as you know what digital product entails and you start doing little pieces of it, maybe the roadmap, maybe the experience focus, right? I think that moves you in the right direction. So
okay. So I worked on APM and I've also implemented SPM to two entities together. APM, typically we focused on how a enterprise architecture team making decisions on their IT investments. That's a typical scenario. And I could see SPM is like more of how are we performing, how our services has been delivered, in terms of how can I rank your services, most from a service mindset. So can I consider DPM as a combination of these two together, and says that, his service along with the backend tech together, forms this product, or is there something that I'm missing here?
No, I think that's a good way to look at it, is we want to roll up data on them. DPM will give you roll up data. So it rolls a bunch of metrics up, and it'll have that quantitative data, like how many incidents do I have, or how many unplanned changes, or how many outages. But you can also roll up that qualitative data using the assessments piece.
Okay.
And the target for DPM is very specific. They call them solution owners. So that could be a person that owns a group of applications, a person that owns a digital product that made up by a bunch of different technology, or a person that owns a group of services, right? So that's who this is made for, is those solution owners that are responsible for the overall delivery of some value to a consumer.
Makes sense. So in this DPM, the workspace that you just shown, John, in APM, we would be showing the risk, right? The risk is one of the thing we would show, the technical risk, if we don't upgrade or change the technology, right? So in DPM, do we also get that kind of context, like integrate with the software asset management to get the life cycle information, or I see the application services which attribute to service mapping or manual, right? Kind of stuff. But
yeah, that moves more where this one's a solution owner, that moves more into like an EA responsibility. So that APM is more for EAs, DPM is more for the solution owners. So very specific targets.
So is DPM, last question, sorry about that. Is DPM is really embedded into the CSDM, and it comes as part of platform capability or any additional licensing?
It comes as part of ITSM or SPM. So as long as you have one of those, DPM stretches across those products, no additional licensing.
No additional licensing. Okay, it's I would say it's more of like a CSDM extending data model.
You got it.
Yeah, thank you.
Part of core. All right, so I know today was kind of scattered. I wanted to just go through a lot of top of mind things and see if I got anybody moving or thinking differently about digital products. And we're going to certainly do more on that on sessions to come. The other thing I just wanted to see, you could either come off mute or go ahead and drop it in the chat on foundational data. This is a lot of people, they're not getting stuck on creating the CSDM models or doing that modeling piece, but they're getting stuck on having clean foundational data, whether that's the teams or the organizations or the departments or the business units. So if you could just put in chat, I didn't have a survey for this, but just drop data in there. Are you struggling with this today? And I know at least 4 organizations that have commented that they are struggling with the right foundational data to feel comfortable moving forward. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about it, or like I said, just drop that in chat.
Hey, John.
Hey.
So all of our customers, yes, to the point that as they start their CSDM journey, we will not engage unless you address it. And I know that's a huge thing as a ServiceNow partner, but it doesn't make any sense to get into crazy if you're already in it.
Yeah.
So it's part of our pre-sales. So once we find out, we look at their foundational data. If it's not in order, we ask them to take the opportunity to work with us to get it in order. And if they're not willing to do that, then we have to pass on the opportunity. That's where I am these days.
Do you have processes for helping them get there, or assessments?
Yes, sir. You know what? The Happy Path has a process for everything. Yes.
Yeah, maybe you could share that, Ed. That'd be a good session, because I've been struggling with how do I help people with this, and I don't really have a lot of good answers myself. So if somebody has good answers, okay.
And you can see I'm back, everybody.
Yeah, let's get you teed up.
We'd also really benefit from that as well. We've tried to look at a lot of documentation, but Yeah, I did put a comment in chat. It's Tyson here from the University of Western Australia, by the way. But yeah, our CMDB was let to run wild for a little bit there. And it wasn't until myself and my wingman, Scott Wilcox, who's also in this meeting, they've really been starting to dive into it now over the last 8 months. We've certainly made improvements, but it would have been fantastic if we could actually have, like, you know, a good guide or a process or a recommendation on the best way to get this sorted.
Yeah. Good deal. I know we're over, but I just have this last slide in here. The next 2 sessions, one will be on process mining, and then we're working more and more with product management. So on process mining, we'll have Dan Grady talking about that. If anybody is doing process mining, we'd love to have you speak with Dan. So co-speak, Dan will do part, or Dan's team. And then the same on DPM. If anybody's doing DPM and would want to show the group kind of what they're doing so they know, hey, this is what ServiceNow demos and this is how it really looks, right, when we're using it. That's what we try to give here. So if anybody can help me out on either one of these 2, that'd be greatly appreciated.
I'd be interested in having a discussion about DPM and sharing where we are, because we're doing some offline modeling and trying to understand how we manage to model our organization and portfolios across it. So definitely interested in having a sort of roundtable discussion there with, we've literally installed DPM in the training environment, are playing with it at the moment. So getting other perspectives is really useful.
Yeah, we'll reach out, Damien. Thanks for that. All right. Thank you, everybody. Sorry to take you 2 minutes over, but we'll talk to you in a few weeks.
Hey, John, how do we contact you?
You could get me on, let me drop my email in there. I think that's the easiest for now.
Okay.